Hello and welcome to the Pima County Library Foundation's Author Salon Series. My name is Jason Lazaro, and I'm the president of the Pima Library Foundation Board. The foundation is a 501c3 and has grown through the years to become the private philanthropic partner of the library. The foundation funds library programs and supports the library's key strategic priorities. These private funds from individual donors, foundations, and businesses ensure that the Pima County Public Library is ready and able to serve our neighbors all across Pima County with top flight collections, innovative programming, and critical community services. Most recently, the Pima Library Foundation, in conjunction with several area businesses, provided funding for an outdoor pavilion at the new Sahuarita Library. The pavilion will be used by the community for special events such as concerts, theater, speakers, and other programs to enhance the library patrons and the community at large. The foundation also supports and funds several programs for young adults, including reading programs and an online high school diploma program. To learn more about the Pima Library Foundation or to make a donation to help support our mission, I encourage you to visit our website, which is www.thepimalibraryfoundation.org. I also encourage you to ask any questions you have during today's program, submit them on the Q&A or chat function via Zoom. And now I'd like to introduce my colleague, Colleen Woodham. Colleen?
Thank you, Jason. So the Pima Library Foundation makes it possible for us to enjoy thought-provoking author salons, where we can meet the writers whose books appear in Southwest Books of the Year, which is Pima County Public Library's signature review of the year's best in Southwest literature. The Southwest Books of the Year panel of reviewers read all year so that we can tell readers about the books that we've liked best, the books that excite and engage us and that make us think. Today we'll hear about a book that gave us a lot to think about. Send a Runner, A Navajo Honors the Long Walk, published in April 2021 by the University of New Mexico Press, made us think about heroism and determination and the pull of history. It tells the story of a man who pushed himself to the limits of physical endurance, using the power of running to honor the memory of his ancestors. The summer of 2018 marked the 150th anniversary of the return of the Diné people to their ancestral homelands from military captivity. Years earlier, they'd been rounded up and forced on the long walk to the Bosque Redondo in eastern New Mexico. Several thousand died in the ordeal. To honor the route of the to honor the survivors and their resiliency, Edison Eskeets, one of our book's authors, ran the route of the long walk from the Spider Rock Overlook in Canyon de Chelly to Santa Fe, New Mexico. He ran the 330-mile route in 15 days. He ran the first mile in his moccasins. Think about that. He was 59 years old. Really think about that. The book has 15 chapters, one for each day of the run. Edison's physical and emotional ordeal by itself is page-turning reading, but that's just one aspect of this extraordinary story. In a deft interweaving worthy of Spider-Woman herself, the authors relate Navajo history and lore, the deeply spiritual underpinnings of Eskeets' 330-mile dance, and his personal biography as an ultra runner against a landscape infused with poetry, and it's very compelling reading. Please let me introduce the authors to you. Edison Eskeets, a former All-American runner, coach, artist, and teacher who's been running in the Southwest for over 50 years. He served as the head of school and the dean of students for the nationally recognized Native American Preparatory School. He is the first Navajo trader to manage the Hubble Trading Post, the oldest continuously operating trading post in Navajo country. He lives between Ganado, Arizona, and northern New Mexico. Jim Kristofic grew up on the Navajo reservation in northeastern Arizona. He has worked as a river guide, journalist, ranch hand, national park ranger, oral historian, and high school English teacher. He's the author of The Hero Twins, a Navajo English story of the monster slayers, Navajos Wear Nikes, A Reservation Life. Medicine Women, the story of the first Native American nursing school, and Reservation Restless, all published by University of New Mexico Press. He lives in Taos, New Mexico. Jim, incidentally, is a 3-time Southwest Books of the Year honoree, and I do think that's something of a record, a wonderful record. Well, Edison and Jim, welcome, and thank you for being here at our virtual salon. Picture applause right here. This is where it'll be. I'm going to turn it over to you, but I want to start with a question that maybe we can riff on a little bit, which is, how did it work to co-author this book? Only one person ran. How did this work for you? How did you do this?
It was, good afternoon. This is Edison. I know it's going to go into the evening here, but welcome. Welcome. My name is Edison. So we're here. Jim is with us as well. The paired writing, let me just say something before we get into this. You know, we are storytellers. You know, we say things and we write things. There are other forms of writing, and one of them is the energy that we have. And so I'm so lucky that I use my running as a tool to tell the story. And by moving through time frames and moving through the land, moving through boundaries and communities, there's a story in it. My personal well-being certainly was in preparation for over 40 years. And so the storytelling has been with me for so long. At the age of 5, so at 59, my body knew what to say. I know people would see me, they without words, they're just looking at me. But there's a storyline. I mentioned there's a dance. It's a dance all the way through as well. And I met Jim in 2010 at the Hubble Trading Post. He was posted as a ranger, and I shared my story. I said, I'm doing this project. It was compelling to me. Even though it was my project, it was compelling to me. And I listened to Jim as we spoke. And I said, this is the person that I should introduce my project to. So we talked, I think we met twice. That was it. And from that point on, we just kind of merged. It was a perfect marriage as we went into the storyline. And Jim, I would hand this over to you as well. Your thoughts on this flow of content.
Yes, I met Edison, like he said, when I was a ranger there at Hubble Trading Post. And actually, you know, in 2010, when we first met, I was there just on my own, working with the archives. And I was like volunteering there and like living out of my car in like this old dorm building that was not really livable. But I was there to do an oral history project that became Medicine Women, the book you mentioned. And then I came back in 2012 as a ranger and was living there at the post. And in both times I met Edison, I could tell just on a human level, this person knows things I need to know about this place. And like you said, Edison, that you were a storyteller, I completely agree. I have that instinct also to want to be a storyteller. There is no way, it's hard to tell on Zoom, but I'm like 6'3" and I weigh about 200 pounds. And if there were a pack of rabid wolverines chasing me, I could not do a 5-minute 50 mile. There's no way. Like I'm not a runner in my physique, but I really respect runners. And my stepdad actually was a very good runner when he was in high school, and he would run a lot when I was growing up. And so I would see him at races. So I understood the value of running. And when Edison mentioned that he ran, I could, look at his body. I could tell, oh yeah, this guy probably runs very well. And yeah, he was always training at that point. So I could see he was committed to an athletic life, like he had a real physical culture. People begin to fade from their bodies, I feel. I'm 40 now, and a lot of my peers who are my age, you know, they're fading from their bodies. They are not running, or they're not moving as much. So I could tell Edison was very committed to that. That also really caught my attention. And when he would explain to me and tell me these stories of these runs he had done, I was like, well, that's nice you say that, but a human being can't do that. I don't know what you mean. You ran 400 miles, you ran 380 miles. And he wasn't running, you know, with a film crew behind him. He made, you know, no money from such a thing. It was a spiritual endeavor, and to aid his role as an educator. And when I found out he was an educator as well, had been a dean of students, had dealt with some very stressful situations in his time as an administrator. I met teachers who had taught under him, who spoke of him in a way I would rarely speak of a principal. That is absolute integrity, and someone who is very respectful. Not all principals are like that. Some are, and that's great, and I've worked under them, but not all of them. And so I was just very fascinated with Edison's character, and I did think at that time, man, you know, there are people like Edison in the world, and no one knows unless they happen to be lucky, like me, to meet them. And I had looked up some things Edison had said of what he had done, and I found like one old magazine story on the internet, and there wasn't much that backed up, you know, that chronicled the things he was doing. So in that interim between 2012, I moved back to New Mexico in 2014, and then I was invited, gratefully so, invited to participate, to view what was happening, to record it. In that time, it would always stay with me that, you know, he's out there doing his thing. No one knows. I wish someone knew. And then he invited me to this. I think I still have it somewhere in my briefcase. He gave me one-page piece of paper that said the message, the run. Here's what it was, kind of like a press release, like accumulation of ideas. This is what we're doing. Be there in the morning. It's like, okay. So he gave me some heads up, maybe 2 months in advance before it happened in May there. And yeah, we, like Edison said, we just met at an old table in the trading post from like a restaurant that had burned down a little bit before, the restaurant from when I was a kid, Ramon's. And we had some coffee and talked about some ideas of it. And like he said at that time, he said, don't worry, this is all going along. We're just going to be going through the motions. It is already finished. It is already done. And then I was taking notes in my notebook, and he took his finger and he touched the notebook. He said, even that is done. And he was correct. It was. So thank you for those moments. And I showed up in the morning. I was there, and the reason the book went the way it did, with the pairing of history and reality of his physical movement, was that we would be moving along the road, especially in Chin-Li, and I could tell all the Diné people who had that traditional understanding, like they knew what he was doing. They knew. He would be running, and people would be like, yeah, going, like honking their horn, and they knew what they were seeing. But there were also people who were maybe traveling through, tourists. They would see him, and you know, they're like, what is he doing? So I had to use that history aspect to explain to them what he's doing, as I saw it from my perspective.
From a history perspective, I want to go to the title. What is the significance of sending a runner? What does that mean?
I'll take that. Prior to the influx of the Europeans, the indigenous group here in the Americas, when Of course, there's no vehicle, no horses. The transportation is dismal. And so on a daily basis, maybe sometimes on a monthly basis, maybe it's a 4 months or 6 months or so, a message has to be carried from one tribe to another, or maybe it was a run down to the south. Of course, within your immediate family structure, sometimes there's a need, there's a health concern, there's medicine. And so when the ailment is founded, the medicine man might say, well, you need this medicine. The only place you can find it now, let's just use Ganado. The only place, so you're located in Ganado. The medicine man might say, the only place you can get this is in Flagstaff. Well, it's a 2-hour drive, and running that is going to take you all day. And so I had to play with this over and over. And again, I was 5 years old, and something that was very innate became alive. I didn't understand that at the time, but it became more so. And a little phrase came my way: something is out there. And today I still use it. It's part of this motivation, being disciplined and determined to find what that is. It's also, I think it's just in life, whether you're a runner or not, there's always something out there for anyone. And so it was a perfect a title. I know we played with that, just little words here and there, or Jim did, and I knew it was going to find its foundation, and it did. And when it came out, I was like, yeah, that's exactly what it is. And Jim, any thought on that?
Yes, it was one of the reason I had that title in come to me, or wherever that information came from. It was a response to two things, I think. One is that when you're studying history, you don't always have the best writers working in the field. If they're very technical or very scientific background, and if you were to read a history book, runners aren't really talked about very much. The names of a runner or who the runner was, but in the history book, it'll say messages went out, as though someone tied a note onto a pigeon and it just like went off. When really someone sent a runner, and a very disciplined, focused, usually man, would put their life into the distance and go. And that was, it's a very interesting idea, because I don't run like Edison runs, okay? But I do run. And I ran for many years, not competitively, but I would run every other day, 5 miles, 10 miles. And I know what happens when you do that, and I'm sure Edison does too, is that you are expressing the self, but also the self is dissolving as you're thinking but not thinking. And that is such a, to me, very fascinating decision for a person to make to benefit their people, because that's why these runners were going. They weren't going like send a runner so they can win a trophy, or send a runner so they can get regional title. There is no victory because there's no finish line. That's the context a lot of Americans have about running and athletics. So I wanted to honor not just Edison as a runner, but the many runners who literally saved people's lives by getting information to people before the army showed up, or before a sickness really set in and took a person out of the world. And so that sentence, even, send a runner, if you want to get technical in English, that's called an imperative sentence. That is, there's an implied you in the sentence, you send a runner. And we don't get the sense of who's giving the command. And I like that mystery, that we don't know who was saying it, who told Edison something's out there, where did that voice come from? That's very mysterious to me. And
It makes
Yeah,
running very powerful.
yeah, like I said, at age 5, that innate element in me evolved through the years. And of course, I was not in understanding of the long walk, but it came my way a little at a time. It's like there's something. And through the years, I mean, we're talking a good span of years, as I got involved in the educational aspects and other Native groups as well. And one data that really had a profound impact on me was in the Americas, from Alaska to South America. Now, these are data by maybe 3 organizations indicating that, at one time there were between 60 and 80 million indigenous groups in the Americas. Today, if the total of today is almost 6 million. We're, in my mind, this is me speaking now, we're almost gone. And so it was imperative that I have to say something on behalf of the people, and to share the story. And the story is about people, for one, and for all around the globe. And again, there are some challenges in this, because within my native Navajo society, and it's very sensitive. They don't want to go into that area, that arena, because it's so painful. But in my case, like I need to say something for the sake of education, for the long range outlook of the education, and for the people to understand. And so therefore, I mean, I'm still speaking, I speak Navajo, I'm very traditional. Even this selecting a subject in our society, like the language, is so important. It's also being, I mean, it's just like the Irish, they're losing their language. And we got to do something about that. We got to maintain that. And so all of these little pathways and avenues are merging together in our mindset. And again, like I said, at the very end, this is all going to be about humanity. It's the life of man, whether it's good, negative, or not. It's what it is. It is what it is.
We have actually a question apropos of running and history and significance. And I'm going to bring this up now while we're on the subject. A viewer is asking, were women ever sent as runners? And are there women runners today?
There's quite a bit, yes. Yes, it was shared position. I know now, even that, the running had a specialty. You were noted, you were granted, you were identified as that messenger, the carrier, and you're gifted. The gift was how to have you're gifted with a prayer. So every mission, you have to have that prayer. You're speaking to the elements, you're speaking to the constellations, the stars and the moon and the water and the earth, so you can be safe and deliver your mission. So if you're gifted in that way, you were honored to get a title. And that title was Jade. It's no longer here, but those who actually witnessed the last run that I did, you actually witnessed old traditional running that was in play. And you'll never see it again. I mean, I'm not going to do it again. I'll do other running, but it's not about Jade. There may be a taste of it, but the Send a Runner was really about that ceremonial position. And again, there was a dance, there was a prayer that went along with it. Yes, so gender, it doesn't matter. It was gifted to whoever had the gift.
Okay.
empowerment. And there are runners today, yes, for the sake of athleticism.
Edison, your family was with you, along with Jim on the run. Your family also came with you. Was that significant to you? And could you have done the run without them?
No. That is a support system that was vital. My first run was back in the early 80s. My first ultra run was 140 miles. I was very young. We had to go through trials and errors and all that stuff. I actually ran over 30 miles without water, believe it or not, without water. My sister and my dad were my crew. They got lost and they couldn't find me. It was hours before they found me. They had to drive so far out, 30 miles, to actually catch up with me. And I just kept running and said, well, I can't waste my time. And so it was vital, yes. Ultra running is very distinctively unique. The pressure with the food intake, the water intake, because there's a point where it's very deadly. I don't recommend this. I mean, I was so well prepared though. What I did of this 330 miles, I wouldn't recommend it. I will recommend it for people who are maybe 40 to 50. That's it. I think that's a good, healthy span of your body to be in contention of receiving the punishment. But over 50, I wouldn't recommend it. It's very painful. Someone asked me at one time, how do you feel after a run like that? I said, it's like recovering from a pneumonia, at least 4 of them in one shot.
So I have a question, and this is really for both of you. I know you prepared, you were in your headspace going ahead. Was there ever a time during the 15 days when you felt like, I'm not sure I can do this? And also, I'm going to open this up for Jim too. Was there ever a time during those 15 days when you might have stopped and looked around and said, I'm not sure this is a good idea? Did you ever have any doubts?
Never.
Never.
On my end, never. As I think we said it perfectly. This is done. It's complete. We're just going to go through the motions. And I think we both had that. There's no question. Never once did I say, oh, I can't take this anymore. No. You know, I actually started my run with a tendonitis on both legs. People don't know that. It was very painful. Jim, I don't think I even told you.
No, you didn't.
I was in a lot of pain, especially in the morning. Man, I had every mile, I guess the first 2 miles was making that adjustment. It was so painful. It was brutal. I didn't share it with my sister. I just kept that to myself. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think he was going to stop, mostly because, you know, I like I said, I'm not a track coach. I used to run for fun, but I know like a little bit about running, a little. And I would be following him in my car because I would usually be the car behind him, like to block him in to keep other cars away. And I would like go, oh, how long did this mile take? And it would almost always be like 7-minute miles, 7-minute miles. So that's fast. But when you're running a marathon, most people train at like 10-minute mile when they're like just training and they try to make it last. And so that's what I would have to do. But he was doing 7-minute miles over and over and over again. He's almost 60. And I thought, yeah, he's going to finish. And if he has to, he'll probably like grab a cane and start running with a cane or something. But I could tell like if you were watching him, you know, move as a human animal, like the physical body, there was no sign that like he was drained or fatigued or anything.
I remember.
Well controlled.
No, go
it may
ahead.
not be the right term to say. It was well controlled
Yes.
physically, mentally. The control was there. I think there were moments where, you know, maybe I had to change because you do lose toenails if you're not careful. So if
Wow.
I feel a little discomfort, I will say, okay, we need to stop. I need to address something here, and we did that. I know my first run, man, it was really because I lost toenails, blisters. My gosh, if you get these blisters, it'll make you stop. You cannot continue. Blood blisters, they're brutal. So there's a lot of preparation. Again, for the sake of athleticism, the amount of instructional information is immense. I was telling folks, I said I was losing 10 pounds a day, and then you have to regain that with overnight, and then lose that again the next day.
How do you consume enough calories to do that? I mean, a marathon every day. How much pasta can you eat?
Well, you don't eat one. You eat mini meals. I mean, you'll eat a meal every 2 hours, even throughout the night. So hats off to my family. This is where my family understood. That someone will be cooking, someone will be making things, and they'll have, this is for you in the next 2 hours. This is what you need to have. Or, you know, actually the instructional piece of that is far ahead of time. And we have done it for so many years. By the way, I covered over, as of 2018, somewhere in that time frame, I covered over 300,000 miles. That's at least 7 times around the world.
Wow.
As a runner. So
Wow.
I'm well trained. You know, you know, I was just lucky. I was gifted with something that was a gift. I think my faith base in traditional ceremonial setting was an add-on. Also, I think if I didn't have that traditional thing in play with my purpose, if that was off, if I didn't include that, there was no way I would have completed this. In fact, one of the runs that I did, my first run was running the Humphreys Peak in Flagstaff, Arizona. It's over 12,650 feet in elevation. It took me 58 minutes to get on top, and there was 4 feet of snow on top.
Oh, wow.
Without the spiritual aspect, there is no way I could do that. There's no way. It's impossible. But I did it. 58 minutes to get on top.
Amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. Yeah, so this information is, you know, it's not included, but it's phenomenal. It is just one of those things that, believe it or not, I don't know if, you know, people would try to run 58 minutes. I don't know if you can do it on a good day. I have no idea. Yeah, I have no idea.
I have a question for Jim. The book is so profoundly grounded in the spirituality of what Edison is doing and the respect for the land. And I'm wondering, I hope this is okay to ask, you grew up on the Navajo reservation. If you had not had that formative experience, would you have been such an able translator?
Oh, no way. No way. Yeah. You know, what happened to me being there from such a young age, I was about 6 when I moved there. And something in me found a lot of like a synchronicity or a kinship to the people who live there. And to this day, it's still like that. I'm kind of awkward in myself unless I'm there, to be honest. Like it's very, I know if I'm walking around there, people think like I'm a Sasquatch or something, and I look very weird to them, too tall or whatever. But in my mind, I'm like very comfortable being there. And, you know, I was, I think I said this with Edison before, but it's kind of like when you play like image games with kids and you say like, okay, close your eyes, and you say giraffe and you see a giraffe, or, you know, close your eyes and you say watermelon and you see a watermelon. And for me, because I was just there so young, like if I close my eyes and you say, okay, a man or woman, I'll see a Navajo man and a Navajo woman. Like that's just how that is for me. So the feelings while writing this were very profound for me, and there was a lot of grief. To like imagine the people who live in Ganado, people like them, like being hunted. That is not a pleasant image. But that's, I think a lot of people talk about this, that when they lose kin or imagine their kin being lost, they feel like, well, I have to do this for them, or I have to do this to, which is why Edison and I both in our dedication to the book wrote what we did. Because I was feeling that very much. And as a writer, you're supposed to be dispassionate at the, like, by the time you finish the book, it's pretty dispassionate experience because you've rewritten it like 7, 8, 9, 10 times. And that's about how many times I rewrote it, I would say.
Wow.
Sometimes little bits here and there, it would be a change, but like Edison said about it being done, the structure and everything was done. Like that was just done. I wrote most of the book by hand on a steno pad with my pencil, and was writing most of it before dawn or like at dawn every day on the summer, that summer 2018, you know, after the June. And just putting that together, even though I'd written it many, many times, when I had to do the audio book, like the Audible version, I think we had to stop.
That.
Yes, yes. I think we had to stop like 25, 30 times because I would start crying. Like it is just really hit me emotionally to do it. So yeah. So without that background and that connection to that place, and not just Ganado, but a lot of those places Edison went to and passed through, and a lot of the places I encountered in the histories that I'd been to, I could see all those things very clearly. And also, you know, it's interesting when you're an Anglo person and you're dealing. So it's interesting because I'm in Taos, for example, I am an Anglo person who grew up around Navajo people who for many years referred to other Anglo people as white devils, and I did not get along with them very well. Then I'm watching Anglo people look at Native people in a way I don't, because I don't have, like just the time I spent there and interacted, I see the everything more on a humanity level, not on a, oh, you're Native, you must talk to eagles or whatever, like that kind of romanticism that can happen. Because some Native people don't have that connection as profoundly because they've decided not to have it. And you know, I went to school with those people. You know, they didn't believe it or think it was real. So
We have another question, actually apropos to ask right now. Is the book available in Navajo?
Not yet.
Nice. Will it be?
I'm sure it will be. It's being considered for an academic material for high school and institutions or colleges. So that's, I mean, that's hats off to us for a material that is, I think, well needed. And just to have, I think, and again, like I said, this is so global. I'm glad that Jim was able to share a couple things in the book. One is a person, a scholar, Joseph Campbell, who made a comparison with two sites. One here in the States. That's Canyon de Chelly as one of the holiest places on earth. And the other one was Chartres Cathedral in France, south of Paris. And that was the whole, I mean, that was the whole gifted thing that I had through the years. Because you have the Europeans, they have their churches and they have their infrastructures, and you know the faith base is another entity. And that's a part of it. That came our way with the influx of the Europeans. That's where all the stories are so it became more compelling when it made its way into the States. And of course, we all changed. And another line that was shared from Jim's writing was, you know, which really had a profound impact on me. He said, the stories are so old that it's becoming lost in the sand or sands. And again, as I said recently, where, you know, for the sake of education, we got to make sure this is shared. And it had a profound impact on me. And again, it's really about humanities. It underscores our human capabilities under all circumstances of living. And within our native structures here, as the influx took place, a lot of hardship. There were, you know, allies. There are, you know, faith-based. People wanted to conquer. And of course, the treatment, the encampment, and all of that became a part of us. And Navajos were peaceful people at one time. We became warriors. Unfortunately, people are not reflecting on being the peaceful people, except within our native medicine structure. When they say their prayers, they'll say balance and harmony. That I will embrace that. Today in our history classes in universities, they'll, you know, it's always, you know, they were the best warriors, you know, they were most feared. No, we were made warriors because we were defending due to the influx of the Europeans. And that's what we're known for. That's what the name is. Navajo is the blade. It's, you know, people who are raiding the Southwest, raiding the people. No, you know, I guess, I don't know, maybe we made a mistake. You know, people, we enjoy people. People do come, you feed them, you make sure they're healthy and they move on. Well, a lot of them move on. And so we had our own infrastructure. We had our law system, we had our court system, we had our medicine system. We had all of that. Of course, in, you know, with these treaties, with the long walk, we had to sign off on that. Even our language, we're asked not to utilize that. So in schools, Catholic schools and so forth, we were asked not to speak Navajo ever, and that was very painful. Our original name is actually Nabahi. Nabahi, the definition is the seeker of medicine, the seeker of land, the seeker of comfort. We don't use that. That's also all gone. We don't use it. Instead, we're saying Diné. Diné is actually the people around the globe, the people of the world.
Oh.
Yeah, that's Diné. Navajo. And the other one is Navajo. That is actually from the Pueblos. Yeah. So there's so much more. I mean, again, this is really in depth with the medicine folks that I met. Oh, I found a lot of stuff that I'm so pleased with. I think on my own terms, I am really satisfied. The mission and the project is complete. I'm very humble with it. And I was, before we came on the air here, I said, you know, just the book itself, I tried to read it the second time, I fell apart, I couldn't do it. But it's going to take me 15 years to really dissect all of that, because there's so much more. that is said. Words are the connotations are many. There are many connotations.
So the significance of where you began your run in one of the world's most sacred places, one of the two most sacred places. How about the significance of where you ended? Why did you choose to end in the plaza?
Because that was a government. Policies were being made in Santa Fe through different individuals assigned administration from Washington, from the White House, through the lieutenants, the sergeants, and they're delivering their orders to round up the people, to and again, this was about land. This is about the land goods, the mining goods, the metal goods, you name it, the energy that was there. Meanwhile, they're destroying the ceremonies, just the living folks of the indigenous group of the Americas. And it's just not here. I mean, that's why I'm saying it's really about humanities. I mean, if you go to the Europeans, Byzantium period, the Roman era, I mean, the Asiatic countries, they've gone through the same thing. So is it a lesson? I hope it is, but today's society, we're still following that same order of things. To me, it's very distorted.
Mhm.
Anyways, so I took it on myself to have a movement in it, instead of having the sand nurture it.
I have to ask, this is a rather specific question, but I've wondered about it. Okay, on day one of the run, some dogs start to follow you. And they may be up to no good, these dogs. And you shook a rattle at them, right? And then later on, you refer to the rattle again, that the rattle takes the pain. Can you talk a little bit about the rattle? What was the deal with the rattle?
In many indigenous groups, they have a ceremony of sorts. There's a lot of ailments. There's a lot of concerns that need to be unraveled, and part of the tools that are utilized is a rattle that will connect with the earth, wind, fire, water, landscape, land. So it will travel. It will touch the four-legged, the sea people, all the animals. Within the person, people to people, it's also soothing. It will release stress, tension, the energy that might be unsettling. It will ease it for you. So the rattle became a part of it. Part of this was also to break the energy, because the energy is still here, that negative energy, because of all the killing, all the raids, all the rapes, and you name it, it's all here. So for me, the rattle actually gave that pathway of the openness to have. It's like having an escort up front. That was to have the sound, make that sound go forward. So I have an opening. Yeah, and again, the rattle is connected with the constellations, the stars, the moon, the sun, the atmosphere, and then to the core of the earth, and then back onto the crust of the earth with all the prayers. That's the rattle. So get one.
Well, you mentioned something about maybe putting yours on eBay. Did you actually do that?
No, it's actually with the National Park Service.
I have a question here. Well, two questions actually. What was the most satisfying moment or favorite part of this project for both of you?
Jim?
Oh, well, I guess, you know, it's hard to say one satisfying, but I obviously, you know, when you publish a book, typically the publisher will give you like author copies and you sell them on eBay. No, I'm kidding. No, you don't sell them on eBay. But usually you give them to your family, like you give them to friends, like to say, here's what I did. And for free, usually you don't charge them. And so I sent a copy to my brother, who's my youngest brother. He was born in Ganado, and he's half Navajo, you know, he's Diné. And he was a very good runner in high school. He's built like very thin and like very long limbed, and he was a cross country runner, and he was won a state title for high jump. Also, he was a very good track athlete.
Wow.
Yeah, he still runs to this day. And I sent him a copy of the book, and he read it, and he said it's his favorite book. So that was very satisfying. That like one person I know, he does not read much. He will tell you, like he does not read. But that was satisfying to know that, like, oh, I made the. Because for me, the reason I even started writing was always just to connect with my family, and then also to extend my boundaries of family beyond my blood relatives to as many people as I can. I guess another satisfying thing, though, is that I can, not only did I write the book, but I have memories that didn't go into the book of that time that are good to think about when I'm in solitude, I guess.
Wow. Well, on my behalf, it's a long process. It's a development through time. As I mentioned, at the age of 5, there's something out there, and as time went by, it became more intense. And it kind of parallels with what Jim is saying, maybe from another storyline, but it parallels. And it was about the people. It was about the Europeans. It's about the arts and all that. And I knew it was my last run, a final run that was really profoundly me. But I had all the narrative in me, all the emotional attachment that composed itself for many years. So for this long run, I had long hair, and I started with a traditional opening, and with the arts as well as some plants and all that. And as I went along, and at the very end, in Santa Fe, I walked up to the state capitol, and in front, this is so cool, there's no words. I took my hair and I cut it. That was it. The freedom, I don't, you know, I don't know if it's satisfying. Gosh, I don't know how to say it. It's not, because I don't want to celebrate it. It's nothing about that. It's, I guess, completion. To complete an assignment. I'm finally done, and you know, will I get a good grade? But it was about, again, because there was so much energy in it. and you name the energy. You have the Pueblos, you have Hopi, you have Zuni, you have Apaches, you have Navajo, you have the Europeans, Irish, Spaniards, and all of this is that. And I was fully engulfed and composed of that. So at the very end, because when you grow, your hair is a huge part of it. And I think with all indigenous groups, we have that. You look at the Plains Indians; they have beautiful long hair. At the very end, taking that hair and cutting it and sending it back to nature.
So
That was,
this thing that you knew you were going to do from the time you were 5, that was
oh yeah, yeah.
symbolic completion.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh. Someone else asked, I don't know if you all will know the answer to this, but a viewer wants to know where the book can be purchased. Let me read it out. Just read it. Bear with me a second. Where can your book be purchased so that you can get the most benefit from?
There are a lot of sites, Amazon, Google. If you Google "send a runner," you'll have endless lists.
Okay.
It's internationally printed too. They're printed in different languages. You can find it in Australia, believe it or not. So I would just Google it, and you'll have a list to choose from.
Okay.
It is
So
available.
there's no one place over another where it's benefiting any particular.
Well, if you want to help assist an organization, UNM, University
Okay.
of New Mexico.
Directly from the University of New Mexico Press.
Yeah,
Got
I
it.
would highly recommend that. If there's another donating part of the educational system, they're in.
I strongly suspect the University of New Mexico Press would be happy to hear that.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the clock. We are ticking down. And I probably should turn this back over to Jason. But I want to thank you both for doing this. This has been so much fun. And
Thank you.
it's such a pleasure to talk to you. And such an amazing book. Thank you both
Thank you
for
so
writing
much.
it.
Thank you.
Yeah, yes, thanks, Jim and Edison. It really was intriguing. What a pleasure to have you guys. Thanks for taking the time. And I want to thank everyone who signed in today and took the time to hear the presentation. As always, we're looking for support and volunteers, so please visit our website at thepimalibraryfoundation.org for more information, and also for information about Edison and Jim's book. So thank you, and be on the lookout for our next Author Salon series next month at Hacienda del Sol. So I hope everyone has a good evening, and we'll end it here.
Thank you.
Thank you.